Hey guys, I'm Sarah. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing the cake book tag. I was tagged to do this by Celestia, so thank you much, Celestia, for tagging me. And basically it's a list of questions with different like cake types, and we match a book to that. So yeah, I've seen a few people around BookTube doing this that I subscribe to, and it looked like a lot of fun. So yeah, let's just dive right into it. And the first one is Chocolate Cake, a dark book you absolutely love. Okay, I could go with the whole series. I just picked one book, but I'm going to pick The Infidels books by Angela R. Watts. I'm picking specifically the third book, The Mercenary's Deception. This is a Christian like dystopian suspense thriller. It is more on the darker side. It's definitely on the PG-13 to R side with like the violence and stuff. And yeah, it's a very, this book in particular tackles a lot of dark topics of like human trafficking and just government takeovers and gangs and what people will do to bring down others, but also, and to just spread evil, but also what people will do to fight against it and shed the light. And it's a really good, really inspirational series. It is a little on the darker side, so that is why I picked it for this prompt. Okay, question 2 is Vanilla Cake, a light read, and we're going the opposite direction here now with To Court a Queen by H.L. Burke. This is one of my favorite books ever. This is a novella, and it is a it's not a fairy tale retelling, it's just a fantasy that deals with like fairies and fae and stuff. And basically in this book, a knight named Devon, he's trying to take a shortcut to go somewhere, which was a bad idea because he walks right into fae territory, and these fairies kidnap him, and he's given the ultimatum of he has to compete in these trials for the queen's hands, or for the queen's hand in marriage, or she'll like turn him into a frog. So, you know, he doesn't really want to be a frog or like an earthworm or something horrible for the rest of his life. So he decides, okay, I'll try to con my way out of this and just see where it goes. And he's helped along by this other girl, this other like fairy type girl who wants to see the trials end, and it is basically an adventure romance. It is really, really good. I would say slightly for older audiences though, because there are a couple of scenes where, or at least just one in particular, where in order to trick the queen, he kind of has to pretend they're going to, you know, be intimate, but it never goes anywhere beyond like some kissing and stuff, but that is in there, and there's like some like innuendos and stuff sprinkled throughout because this queen has no filter. So yeah, just keep that in mind. But this is very light, very funny. I really, really love this book. And yeah, so very different from Mercenary's Deception. Okay, the third one is Red Velvet Cake, a book that gave you mixed emotions. Now, the book I'm gonna say, it's the end of a trilogy. It's also a book I haven't read in a while, so I may have a different take on it. That is Unbreakable by Sara. This is the third book in the Unblemished trilogy. I had very mixed emotions when I finished this book. On the one hand, I liked the way it ended. I did like the story. On the other hand, I don't know, I didn't. It's not that I didn't like the ending. I'm not even fully sure what it is. It did feel a little disjointed because there's another character's point of view added to this book that was not previous in the first two. And I don't know, I felt maybe that stretched it out. We weren't focusing on the main character as much. I don't know, there were some elements of this book that rubbed me the wrong way from what I remember. I have only read this book once. I do hope to reread this trilogy soon and see if my opinion will have changed over time from when I first read it. But these covers are gorgeous on these books. But yeah, I had very mixed emotions because on the one hand, I liked the way it ended. But on the other hand, there were just some things about this book that, like I said, they just rubbed me the wrong way, or they just didn't come across in the way I thought they would. I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know. I definitely would have to reread this to kind of gather my thoughts on how I feel about it now. But yeah, definitely some mixed emotions with that one. Okay. Number 4, Cheesecake, a book you would recommend to anyone. I would recommend a whole series for this. Well, it's a trilogy, but I'm just going to show the first book, and that is the Angel Eyes trilogy by Shannon Didmore. This is a Christian supernatural, like spiritual warfare book, and I love this series. I don't know if I've talked about this series on this channel before. If I have, I mentioned it once, but I really love this series. I just picked, this was one of the, it's probably the first supernatural story I read. This is definitely the first spiritual warfare story I've read. I just picked it up at the library when I was first getting into like Christian fantasy and stuff, and I realized, oh, it's printed by Thomas Nelson. It's talking about like angels and demons, so I'll try it. And I love this whole trilogy. Yeah, basically, Brelle is just struggling with certain things that have happened to her, and the boy next door that she gets to know, he gives her this ring, which happens to be an angel's halo, and things happen from there. It's a crazy ride. This does also discuss the problems of human trafficking as well. This series does. It touches on it in this book especially, and yeah, it's really good. Really just immediately sucked me in when I started reading it. I've read this a couple times, but yeah, and definitely another series I want to reread. Okay, okay. 5 I don't have is Coffee Cake, a book you started but never finished. I typically do not keep books that I have not finished unless there's just, you know, a specific reason I haven't finished it, like I ran out of time or whatever. But I'm gonna go with a book I just talked about in my last recent reads video, video. I said that right. Wow, whatever. My brain is not where it's supposed to be today. Anyways, I will link that video down below in the description in case you missed it. And that is Shadow Angel, book 1 by Leah Stone and Julie Hall. I DNF'd this book recently. It just wasn't for me. It's kind of a supernatural angels, demons type story, but it wasn't Christian. Even though one of the authors is Christian, it wasn't written with that bent. And I found I didn't agree with a few of the things. Like I said, if you want to hear all my thoughts on that book, watch my recent reads video. I think it's literally the first book I talk about in that video, so you don't even have to watch that far in. So yeah, it just didn't work for me, which is a bummer because the covers are gorgeous on that series, and I do really like Julie Hall's writing. It just didn't work for me, that book. So yeah, I just never finished it and do not plan on ever picking it up again. Okay, Carrot Cake, a book with great writing. Now, I know a lot of people probably pick books with like pretty prose and stuff like that in this, but I'm gonna go with one that has a more simple writing, but it works because it's still powerful, and that is the Ilion Chronicles by J.L. Knight. I just randomly picked book 4 because I always show like book 1, so I just thought I'd showcase this one. But yeah, I have a very similar writing style to J.L. Knight's, and I find it very encouraging that so many people love this series because, I don't know, I always feel like I have to have like flowery prose or something like that, but I just don't write that way. I try to write that way, and it doesn't work. My brain doesn't work that way. But it's so nice to know that people love a series of books that does not have that, and it's still well beloved and talked about and stuff. And I don't know, it gives me encouragement to know that it's more the story and the characters rather than necessarily how it's written that a lot of people connect with, and I just really like that. And I've talked about this series so much, you probably know what it is, but it's an epic fantasy where believers in Elam, which is God in this world, are being attacked by the Emperor, and they are choosing to fight back for their freedoms. So yeah, that's what the series is about, and it definitely gives me a lot of hope for my own books in the future. Okay, the 7th one is Tiramisu, which I gotta be honest, I really don't know what this cake is. It's like I've heard of it, but I can't think of what it is off the top of my head. So, you know, random side note on cake knowledge. But anyways, Tiramisu, a book that left you wanting more. I'm gonna go with The Girl Who Could See by Kara Swanson. This is another novella, and honestly, I liked the way this book ended. I really, really did. But I don't know, I just wanted like more between Fern and a certain other character. If you've read the book, you probably know what I'm talking about. It's just the very end. I don't know, I guess I just would have liked an epilogue or something. I loved the way it ended. I just wanted a little more time between these characters and just, yeah. But I love it anyways. It's just, yeah, I just wanted a little bit more out of this one, and I can't really say much because spoilers, but just admire the cover. It's beautiful. Anyways, okay. And the 8th one, gotta turn my page here on my notebook. 8, Cupcakes, a series with 4+ books. Okay. I have read this entire series once. I haven't read it. Another one I need to reread. Maybe I should just retitle this video, All the Books I Need to Reread. Because literally it's all of them on the stack except Mercenary's Deception, which I did read this year. But, and that series, let me grab them all, I'm going to recommend is The Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer. This is a very popular young adult sci-fi fairy tale retelling series. I read these books a couple years ago. It was a while ago, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. I want to say it was 2019, but I'm not fully sure. It was a while ago that I read these books, but I loved them. Cinder, not as much, which is surprising, because most people seem to really love Cinder, and that's my least favorite book in this series, which is weird. But, yeah, I even gave these to my sister, and she loved them too. But yes, there are 5 books in this series. There are also 2 graphic novels. I'm not even sure if people know they exist. It's called Wires and Nerve. It's basically follows Cinder's friend Aiko. I'm not quite sure how to say her name, but she's the android in this series. But there's a graphic novel duology that follows her. It's called Wires and Nerve. If you've never heard about it, I loved those 2. I just don't currently own them. But yeah, the first book is Cinder. Then we have Scarlet. Obviously, everyone's probably seen these, but I'll just show them anyways. The 3rd book is Cress. This is probably my favorite book in the series because I love Cress. Cress and Thorn are probably my 2 favorite characters. And the 4th book is Winter. And the 5th one is just like a short story compilation, and that is Stars Above. And yeah, I really love that series and just wanted to talk about it because I don't think I've talked about them on this channel yet. Or if I have, it was like once, very briefly. But yeah, I really, really love that series. And the last question is Fruitcake, a book that wasn't what you anticipated. I wonder why they chose Fruitcake for this. Is that just because Fruitcake as a whole is, you didn't anticipate it to be a brick? I don't know. I question why Fruitcake was the last one. It's like, do you think it would taste good? Because honestly, it does not look like it would taste good. I've never tried Fruitcake, but I've heard enough things about it to be like skeptical. Not to mention I don't really like the candied fruit thing anyways. All they do is stick to in your teeth. Anyways, that is not part of the question. I have 2 books for this one. I decided to follow Celestia's lead in this and do a book that wasn't what I anticipated in a good way and in a bad way. So, you know what? We're just going to start with the bad one because I don't have a picture of it. And that is a manga series called Prince Freya. Now, I don't really think I've talked about this series on my channel. If you follow me on Goodreads, however, and if you followed me at least last year, you probably saw my review of the first 5 volumes. Now, the very first one is an interesting premise. It's basically this girl looks like the crown prince in her kingdom, but when the prince is poisoned and he dies, she basically takes his place to, boost morale for the kingdom and stuff, to say that he's still alive. So she basically impersonates him. It's a really interesting concept, and the first volume was actually pretty good. I did see a few warning signs with one particular character that I hate throughout the ones that I read, and it is also extremely violent. There are more literally, in the first volume, literally someone gets decapitated on page. And there's a lot of blood. Characters are often coated in blood and stuff. I heard one person describe it as it's kind of like Game of Thrones. I have never watched Game of Thrones and do not intend to, but I've heard enough about it to get the idea that, yeah, this is basically a manga Game of Thrones, and I don't recommend it. But yeah, it started out okay in the first volume. Then each volume I got progressively worse and worse, and more problematic in all types of content. The fifth one broke it for me, and then I was just like, yeah, this is not a clean manga series. This is horrible, and yeah, I ditched it right then and there. Though, I will leave a link down below because I'm actually quite proud of that review. I will leave the link to my Goodreads review for the fifth volume because it's kind of a rant review. But I don't know, I wrote it in such a funny, sarcastic way. Even a few people commented and told me they thought it was really funny, even though they don't read manga. They read it anyways and they liked my review. So I will leave that down below if you want to see what I thought about the very last volume that I read. It's still being published as far as I know, but I would not recommend it. It's not clean. It's probably somewhere up there in the R rating. It was terrible, but I was just so disappointed because I don't know, it's set up for a good story, and then it just went downhill, and I was just like, what is this? It's like, it doesn't even fit that tone of the first volume anymore. It's just like, what is this? So, yeah, total terrible thing. And for my good example, because let's end on a happy note, that would be Intermission by Serena Chase. This is a contemporary Christian, basically, romance. Basically, you follow this teenage girl, Faith. She is a theater nerd, but she lives in a house where her parents don't really care. They don't care about her aspirations or her dreams to be, to go to like Broadway and become like a theater star and stuff. And they just think it's silly and that she needs to get over it and play sports or whatever. And she meets this guy, Noah, he's like 19. I think he's like college age, and they hit it off right away because he's also a theater actor, and they just get along really well, and they start a relationship. But the problem is, well, technically she's only 17, so this isn't a huge age gap. But her parents, or at least her mother, gets wind of it, and she thinks because Noah is an actor as well, he's literally horrible, even though he's literally a strong Christian. He's the greatest guy that Faith could ever meet, and things and drama spiral from there. This book was not what I anticipated. I had heard about this. Literally, the back cover is just a quote from the book. It doesn't even tell you what it's about. Literally, if you want to know what this book is about, you would have to read like the description on Amazon, or I'm pretty sure the description's on Goodreads too. I haven't read it, but yeah, literally, it's not even on the book. But yeah, it sounds like it's just gonna be a sweet contemporary romance, and it is that, but it also pulls out a lot of issues of, it basically sheds light on emotional and mental abuse. There's a little bit of physical abuse, but it's mainly just somebody hits another character. But it's more the mental and emotional abuse, which is not talked about enough, in my opinion. Mainly because I think in storytelling, that's a very hard thing to get across very well, is that the trauma of not physical abuse, because a lot, people can see that and you can get help for that and stuff. You can get help for mental and emotional too, but it's subtler. It's more quiet, and it doesn't necessarily show up as well. So there's not as many red flags even for yourself. And as someone who has gone through trauma like that, I really connected with Faith and her journey in this, and just like how hard it is to just break away from that and to be your own person despite the lies that have been stuck in your head. And it just doesn't come across as that looking at it and reading the description, but it came across very powerfully in the story. It is a romance. It is a sweet romance, but it's also so much more than that. And I just really appreciate that about this book. This is one of my all-time favorite books. I honestly need to reread this one too. And give it a proper review on Goodreads and on my channel, because it just talks about a very important thing that does happen a lot. A lot of people get emotionally and manipulated and abused, but it's not as brought up because it's not as easy to spot, even for yourself. And it's not that easy to get rid of. And even if you get away from it, not that physical abuse is like any less hard to deal with, but it's more well known by other people that it's a thing, and it happens to a lot of people it's just the more mental, emotional stuff isn't as well known. So it often slips through the cracks a bit more, and just, yeah, and it shouldn't. And I just really love how this book brings that kind of trauma and to light, and to more people to realize this is a thing too. And, you know, it's terrible, but you can overcome it, and you can be a good, decent, whole person in God's eyes through just, you know, recovering from it and stuff. And I don't know, I just found it very inspirational. Yeah, it just doesn't look like that's the type of story it is, but it is, and I love it for that. And yeah, that is the Cake book tag. As far as I know, most people on this channel have not on this channel. This is my channel, and I have not just done it. On other channels have already done this, but I'm going to tag a couple people anyways in case they haven't done it or if they're interested. I'm going to tag Laura from Laura A. Grace and Lindsay from Lindsay from BFCG. I don't know if either one of these ladies would be interested in doing it or have already done it or been tagged. I don't remember. So, yeah, I will leave their channels in the link in the description down below so you can check them out. And yeah, I will also leave the questions in the description down below so you can just like copy and paste or however you do it. Write it in a notebook. That's what I do. But yeah, yeah, thanks so much for watching, you guys. I hope you got a lot of great book recommendations from this. Let me know down below in the comments if you have read any of these books, heard of them, whatever, and what your answers would be to these questions. You can also copy the questions from the description and put them in the comments below and answer them. If you don't have a YouTube channel, I'd love to see your answers. And until next time, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you again. Bye!